welcome back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. Thought I'd come to you with a live stream today. As you can see, literally just behind me, I am in the process of moving. I've had literally no time to prepare whatsoever. However, I might not be able to do any videos for the next week or so due to other commitments and obviously moving. So I thought, let's do a live stream. Let's talk about the future of this channel, this YouTube channel. Where are we going with this channel? How do we make it better than it already is? I have a few problems that I need to fix. Obviously, it's not ideal that I'm filming it in this location. You know, it doesn't look great. I need to be more professional. I need to also go back to the basics as well. But I think overall I've had a very good month with this channel, and certainly it helped going on a live stream with Ron Redlick, which is brilliant. So let's see who's in the room today. Lovely, a couple of people. Okay, so I'm just going to start talking, and yeah, so if you've not already done so, please follow me on Twitter. Talk about a lot of things. There's a lot of information out there which is going to be useful for our discussion today. So let's start with this. So people are asking me, what is Loop Sim? This is the first time I've heard that terminology. It is some form of in-house built simulator that the Boring Company is using. It predicted this number, and that's actually what came to pass. It's also interesting that they're using version 3. Version 3 indicates that was the third tier on the actual contract release for the monies. I suspect that there'll be a version 5 after version 4 and maybe even a version 6. That's all great news. That also was a great reveal as well. I'm kind of skeptical about that number, but you know what they say. Let's if you can talk the talk, then let's hope you can walk the walk. Steve Hill came out with this incredible tweet talking about exceeding 4,400 passengers per hour during this test. This is great news. As you can see, Elon Musk, Vegas for the win. Perfecto. Some people are criticizing Steve Hill, saying that he has fabricated this particular statement. It is just not true. This is 100% accurate. The Boring Company provided the data. Steve Hill and other directors confirmed that. So again, there you go. And another thing that I want to talk about today is this article. I'm only going to cover it briefly because I have been talking to this person and I am still rather confused as to how this article has come to this conclusion. If you read this article, when was this article released? I don't know if it was released before that date or that's a new date since they've edited it, but it was around the 26th, 28th of May, possibly before that. It would have been before that, wouldn't it? So one of the things that it mentioned was this: 11 human-driven vehicles. Well, I'm not sure when this 11 vehicle restriction came into place. I'm really not sure about that. Because if you go further down this document, there's actually a link to a permit that confirms that they are allowed to use 62. So have they changed it at some point? Did they indicate to people that they were going to change it to just 11, but then change their mind again? Did they never indicate that they were going to move to 11 human-driven vehicles only? There's also no real indication as to why they're limiting it to 11. Is it just that they didn't interpret the regulations correctly the first time that they made a decision? It's all very confusing. I think from day one, basically, the Boring Company knew that it was going to be able to run at least 62 vehicles, possibly more in this system. So again, we're just going to have to mark this off as basically the author made a few mistakes during the writing of this article and trusted the wrong people. That's what I'm going to put it down to. I have another theory as well, but I don't really want to go into that today. Let's see who else is in the chats for now. Wonderful. See if we can add that. Is that added on there? Brilliant. Okay, I can see a few people in the chat now. Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, so let's get on to the main topic of today. So I've not really had much time today to really kind of focus on a dedicated topic, and that's a shame because I have a lot of basically I have a lot of things that I'm planning to do, and I've basically made a big list of things, and when I get round to doing them, the videos are good, but I'm not going through my list fast enough to really grow this channel at the rate I want to grow it. And that's going to be the kind of next step for me personally, is focusing on doing more videos per week, and also making sure that the quality of the videos does not, you know, fall drastically, or at least maintains at this kind of level. I think the quality of videos that I'm doing right now. So there's all sorts of topics that I want to talk about. So one of them is kind of like my 5, 10, 15 and 30 year plans for the Boring Company. I did kind of talk about that previously, but I want to go really into specific details about which kind of businesses the Boring Company are going to focus on, and where they're going to make the money in those particular areas, in what kind of regions are they going to focus on particular things like utility tunnels and utility kind of water diversion and mass transit, things like that. So there's a whole list of things that I wanted to. Another great video that I wanted to talk about was the establishment of a Boring Company University, and just focus on what will be at the Boring Company University. Where will it be based? Will it just be focused on tunnelling and mining? Will they put other kind of topics in there as well? Will it be a joint venture with Tesla and SpaceX, that kind of thing? That's going to be a video that I'm going to hopefully produce in the next sort of 4 months. Want to talk about specific projects as well. So one kind of project is linking Scotland to Northern Ireland via a tunnel underneath the Irish Sea. I think that kind of project is perfect for the Boring Company. Another specific project I want to focus on is the Bering Strait, so actually looking at freight tunnels. I also want to do kind of cost analysis of like how much money can a freight tunnel make per day, per month, per quarter, even per hour. You know, who's going to be using it? How do you link that tunnel into the existing freight kind of network, that sort of thing. I even had an idea for storing nuclear waste in tunnels. You know, it needs to go somewhere. That's, you know, there's all these kind of videos that I've got here. Looking at steam, like district heating. I've kind of gone off that idea, but I might still at some point produce a video on that. Garbage chutes. I mean, the list here is incredible. The most important video that I've not done, that needs to be done, that people have asked me a lot about, is how much is it going to cost the Boring Company to run its system in Las Vegas, so that the 30-mile tunnel? How much revenue could they potentially make? How much, you know, throughput are they going to achieve per day, you know, per hour? How much gross margin is that going to be? How much is it going to cost to expand that tunnel? What is the theoretical maximum number of tunnels that could be supported in a city like Las Vegas? And then also kind of scaling that out onto other cities as well. So you start off with Las Vegas, maybe you have a 50-mile network in Las Vegas, maybe slightly more, 60 miles. Then you look at Phoenix. Is it Albuquerque? Is it Albuquerque in New Mexico? There's all sorts of these cities where they don't have any mass transit systems really. They maybe have a bus system and maybe a lot of highways, but they don't really have a proper mass transit system. And I'm going to focus on those various cities. I'm going to avoid the major cities, and then I'm going to just plot that out and then say, if the Boring Company builds these systems, they could have a turnover of X amount per year in 2027, and they could have a gross margin of this much, and then pre-tax kind of profits could be, you know, this much. And I think that's what this space needs. It needs a kind of a breakdown of how much money could this business earn, because at the end of the day, it is a business and it can earn a lot of money. I also want to focus on partnering with startups. One of these startups that I keep mentioning to people a lot, and I need to do a video on it, another district heating video, because you know I love district heating, and the fact that this company just appeared on my radar over the last month or so is absolutely perfect, is this company, Polar Night Energy. If you've not done so, follow them on Twitter. Basically, what they do is they have these kind of very, very deep, very, very wide chambers full of sand. It can be just any old sand as long as it's perfectly dry. And then they inject heat via pressurized air into the sand. And then they store the heat in the sand. And then when they want to withdraw it, they basically push cold air through the system. And then as it goes through, it warms up. And then you extract that hot air. And you can actually store incredible amounts of energy in sand underground in these massive pits. These are not small pits, by the way. You know, we're talking around 70 meters wide by maybe 40 meters, 70 meters long by 40 meters wide by maybe 20 to 25 meters deep. These are big, big pits, but they can store immense amounts of energy. And the bigger the pit, the more efficient it is, because the surface area lowers. That means you can use less insulation. So it's a great company. It fits in well with district heating. They even have a tab on their website to talk about district heating, which is incredible. So district heating is going to be moved around via water. So there's going to have to be some kind of interchange between this hot air and some kind of water tank. And then that water can be distributed into towns and cities, and then it can be distributed to businesses and homes and that sort of thing. And this is a much better idea than having boilers in everyone's homes. Another way of doing that, not this one, is small modular reactors. Now, a nuclear reactor produces a lot of electricity. Small modular reactors are designed to be more cost effective, quicker to construct, but they still produce a lot of electricity and also a lot of hot water. And again, that hot water can be distributed via district heating. Let me just see if I've got any good questions so far. If you've got any questions about what I'm talking about, you'll shout out and say, hey Will, I don't really understand this, or Will, what do you think about this? Have you heard of this company? Let's have a look at this one. Add to broadcast. A good question by John Twig here. We see that there. Stepping stone to autonomous would become convoy mode, small number of drivers could drive trains and minibuses. I think we're so close to full self-driving now. I mean, it is a decent idea, but I think we're so close to full self-driving now that this kind of intermediate step would soon kind of fall away. So I personally think that around January, February time, we're going to start to see full self-driving roll out in such a way that it can be very, very easily used in the Boeing company system. And I suspect by kind of before summertime next year, we'll start to see level 4 vehicles driving around in major US cities, preferably in Florida, because they have the regulations for this kind of thing. So that's interesting. I want to do a video as well on kind of the integration over time of the Boring company system and the robo-taxi system, because these two things are essentially separate entities. At some point, I believe, and I think myself and Warren Redlick have a little bit of a different opinion on this, but we're not far apart, is that at some point, maybe 20, 30 years time, these two systems will, in some places, not everywhere, will merge into one. And all the vehicles will be the same, both in the Boeing company system and in the robo-taxi system. And you'll be able to go into a tunnel, use the tunnel, come out, and then it'll drop you off very, very close to your house or your business. And that just makes a lot of sense for me economically. I've talked about this before, this tunnel between the UK and Northern Ireland. I don't know how to describe what I think about Boris Johnson. I think he makes some reasonably good decisions, but also he makes some kind of bonkers decisions. I didn't vote for him, but it would be a tough ask to get me to convince to vote for him in a future general election. But I think this idea of a tunnel or bridge connecting Northern Ireland and Scotland is a bloody great idea and makes a lot of sense considering Brexit. Boeing company could potentially build this tunnel for under £4 billion. So that's around $5.5 million, I'd say. It'll be a lot less money than a railway tunnel, and it'll be able to move almost the same number of people In fact, if you spent the same amount of money, you could probably move more people. But that's not that. The important thing is that you have 2 freight tunnels linking Northern Ireland and Scotland, and also 2 kind of passenger tunnels, maybe even 3 passenger tunnels. There's no reason why you have to use even numbers. Another big topic I want to talk about, and I'm intrigued by what people are thinking about this. How will the Boring Company have people pay for using its mass transit system, or even its district heating system, or maybe even its freight system, or anything else that it chooses to use? Could you buy a ticket using some kind of blockchain technology? Now, I have talked about this in the past, and just a precursor to what I'm about to say, this is not financial advice. I make my own decisions. I'm a big boy. You know, I've been investing for many years, and I am involved in this space and in this company here, which is kind of a very smart ticketing protocol. I think this is a great company. I think that the people that run it have a really awesome idea. And if this works for sports matches, and it works for conference tickets, and it works for music venues, I think it would also work for mass transit, and it can be scaled up. That's one option. Another option is Cardano. I know that Elon Musk is talking about Doge. Doge has a lot of way to go. It's good, but it's not the best. The best blockchain at this moment in time, in terms of kind of like a smart system for smart contracts, is Cardano. I think Cardano would be perfect for some kind of smart, Boring Company ticketing system for its mass transit. You could have it as some kind of season ticket maybe, and then you could get discounts. If you've not heard of Cardano, I suggest that you follow them on Twitter, and you also follow this guy, Charles Hoskinson, possibly one of the smartest guys. Look at that video. Look at that picture. Possibly one of the smartest guys in this space, and just generally a nice guy with a lot of good opinions. But that's kind of it. That's what I want to do for this channel, is I want to explore a lot of different topics. Let's see if we've got any more questions, anything coming in. That's interesting. Let's see. In fact, I can do this. Is that coming up? Oh, great. Perfect. Okay. So, yeah. So, John, I agree with that. There are lots of places where relative short tunnels under busy road intersections could hugely reduce congestion. In a world where ride sharing is improving or taking over at a rapid pace, then that's going to be a really useful idea. Could get rid of traffic lights and replace them with roundabouts, and then you could have tunnels going underneath. There's lots of different ways you could improve throughput through particular junctions. A tunnel obviously is going to be the best option, but you will need multiple tunnels, because remember, some people are going to be turning left and some people are going to be turning right, and then obviously you need some people going straight on, so you're going to have multiple tunnels. Great question. Bubble Elvis, what is Cardano doing with energy usage? So Cardano uses about, I believe, a third as much energy as Ethereum. And I believe Ethereum uses 90% less energy than Bitcoin, maybe more than that actually. These are super good questions, but what I can say is, compared to pretty much every other blockchain on the planet, Cardano has very minimal costs per transaction. We're talking maybe a few pence of electricity per transaction, decimal places. In fact, per transaction, per 1,000 transaction, you'd probably maybe 1 pence. So it's peanuts per kilowatt hour, absolute peanuts. I don't know the exact number, but it's pretty small. Let's see who else. So Thaddeus Walker's here. Hello, Thaddeus. Johnny is here. Phoenix area will be perfect for boring. Hardly any mass transit. Terrible traffic, yeah, I've heard. And plenty of room for stations. That is excellent. What happens if I take on this thing here? What does that do? Does it just keep it there? I don't know. Interesting. Okay, so let's have a look and see what other questions we have. Here's a good question. What sort of videos have I done recently that you liked and that you would like a follow-up of? Are there any particular topics that you think that I did quite well or that need a bit more explaining? I think I might do a video on Proofrock again at some point once we have a bit more information on it. I think that videos about Proofrock and TBMs in general tend to do really well, so I might do another video on that. Just to make you aware as well, I should be in my new studio in the next week to 9 days, depending on me gaining internet access. Unfortunately, I made a bit of a mistake. I've not activated my new internet subscription early enough, and they aren't able to install it on the day I wanted them to, so I might have to wait a couple more days, but you know, never mind. What else do we want to talk about? I think the most kind of requested video that I'm getting at the moment in terms of emails and general comments is the Bering Strait. I think the Bering Strait is an interesting topic. I think that freight is a new opportunity for the Boring Company. I think that people are going to start moving away from cargo ships over the next 20 years. I think burning bunker fuel is bonkers, and people will eventually start banning it to the extent that it becomes difficult to deliver freight, and the railways will obviously benefit from that as well. But then obviously the Boring Company, if they build good infrastructure, could potentially link China and Russia and Canada via Alaska to the USA. If they're charging a relatively low fee for moving freight through the tunnels, then they can take all that profit there. And obviously it's not affected by weather. It's going to be faster than a boat. You're going to potentially get up to 70 miles per hour per container. I don't really want to go any faster than that. I think that especially if you've got very heavy objects, you want to keep it down, because otherwise the efficiency is going to be quite poor. Again, you could run it in convoys though, so again there are options for that, but I think 70 miles per hour for freight is more than enough. I think that you potentially could have freight tunnels across Europe as well, maybe in the long term, linking up the UK, if the European Union would let us do that, but that's another story, I guess. Come on guys, let's get some questions in. Yeah. Let's have a look at this one. It's not a good background for this, is it? HS2 is an interesting project. I like HS2. I think it's going to be very useful for the UK. I think it helps the UK in a lot of different ways. However, I watched a video on HS1, which is the first kind of high-speed rail project that the UK ever built. I believe they started in 1998, and that linked up the Channel Tunnel to London. That was an absolute shit show, really was. A lot of things went wrong with it. I wasn't aware of that. It was a little bit before my time. So I didn't go to university until 2003. So it started just before I really kind of got interested in the industry. But I suspect HS2 could still be going in 25, 26 years, maybe a bit longer. I'm trying to think when it will open up. It's the end of 2040 when they're predicting to open up the full length. I think some of it will actually get cancelled as well, which would be an absolutely terrible shame. But Boring Company projects will be a lot faster than traditional rail projects, and the fact that they're able to finish so fast and start actually moving people much quicker will make the business case for Boring Company mass transit projects and freight projects and other projects like water diversion and things like that. It'll improve the business case for those kind of things. So good question, John. Good question by Bubble Elvis here. How long will it take before the Boring Company will do multiple projects simultaneously? I think next year is maybe a bit soon for that. Might be 2023, 2024. So when you mean multiple projects, you mean in different cities or different states or even different countries, theoretically. I think that they have to build up the portfolio of TBMs. They don't have enough TBMs at the moment. They also don't have enough TBM operators. They don't have enough skilled personnel. That could be fixed by having the Boring Company University, and I think that's another reason why I want to do that video, because there's a massive shortage of personnel in the tunnelling industry, and I think that you can attract a lot of very talented engineers away from other professions into the mining industry with a good salary and, you know, a progressive company like the Boring Company with potentially stock options. I think stock options are really important for attracting good people to new industries and to new companies. Because if you can say to someone, we're going to pay you, you know, $45,000 a year, but we're also going to give you, you know, £6,000-7,000 worth of stock options every year if you hit such and such a target, then those people become very, very motivated by the success of the company. Also encourages them to stay at that company for much longer. And I think that is a good way to motivate people, is by giving them stock options. So, I think that other than this project in Las Vegas, the next most obvious project that the Boring Company could potentially start in the next 2 years is the Ontario Airport loop, which is connecting up to Rancho Cucamonga, which is my favourite name. So that project could potentially start at the end of 2023, maybe the middle of 2023. It definitely won't start next year. It'll probably be like the middle of 2023. Potentially at that same point, maybe the Las Vegas loop, the 30-mile project could potentially start as well. So you could have a 30-mile project being built and a 4-mile project being built. That project at the Ontario loop will require 2 tunnel boring machines. And then the one in Las Vegas, I think, needs at least 6, maybe more machines. So you're going to need 8 TBMs. At the moment, I believe they have 2 plus another one that they're building. But then again, they might just scrap Godot and just go for 2 proof rocks for next year. So they need to start planning ahead. These are good questions, by the way. How many machines do they actually need? Because it's not going to be that difficult to build up maybe 3 or 4 machines, and then if they need to at a later date add more machines. I'm pretty sure that they've got the cash to do that. But yeah, they're in a difficult situation because they need lots of TBMs. They also need the operators, but then they also need to give those operators and those people that they find experience on other projects before they drop them on these big projects. So it's kind of a chicken and egg problem, really. Good questions. Okay, so I'm going to give it another 5 or 6 minutes, see if we get more people joining. Otherwise, I'm just going to call it a day, I think. I've not really done as much prep work as I would have liked for this video, but unfortunately, as you can see, I'm in the process of moving and I've got a million things that I need to do at the moment. I've just got no time, but which is a great shame. But let's see what we've got. We've got a few questions. No, you couldn't lease. No, actually, I'll take that back. They could potentially acquire another TBM and then modify it, but it's only going to be Godot speeds. So you're going to be limited to like 30, 35, 40 meters per day, absolutely max. And I don't think that would be the best option. I mean, if you have 2 proof rock machines and then you could get 2 other machines, that's obviously going to make things a bit quicker, but it's not going to massively speed up the job. If you've got one machine that's doing 100 meters a day and then you've got another one that's doing, say, 28 meters a day, it's a big difference. It would definitely help. Yes. So there's kind of 2 parts to that. There's one that the client is entirely sure that the boring company can do what it says it's going to do, and there's a lot of risk for them to take on the boring company, because if for example, if you're a politician and you're pushing the boring company and then the boring company fail, then you're going to get sacked. And what politicians like to do is they like to analyze risks, and if they don't need to take a risk here, they don't take the risk. And that's what a good politician should do, because he should be looking after his career. But another problem is it's very, very difficult to get planning approval in some states. So a good example of this is the Baltimore to Washington DC tunnel. That was going to take a very, very, very long time. And it's not worth the boring company's effort to focus on that when they can get quick jobs in Austin, and they can get quick jobs in Florida, and they can get quick jobs in Las Vegas. They've got limited numbers of people that can do all this planning work. They've got limited numbers of TBMs, and Elon Musk's time is limited. So the best thing that the boring company can do is to essentially put these projects on the back burner and focus on states and cities that have an appetite for these kinds of things. So a good example of that is Chicago. The mayor in Chicago changed. It's now Mayor Lightfoot. She doesn't really like Elon Musk too much, and she doesn't want to upset the unions and the people that work in the railways. So what she did was essentially say, hey, I'm not very keen on this idea, so we're going to scrap this project. So Chicago went away. The important thing for the boring company is that it's building new projects every year, and it's doing multiple projects. So it's the boring company has 2 other projects in Las Vegas. They've got Resorts World and the Wynn Casino. Both of those projects should hopefully be completed before Christmas time of this year. Then hopefully we see kind of the Ontario Airport project maybe get some kind of approval, and we also get some approval for the main kind of Las Vegas Strip project. There's obviously other projects as well, like the Dugout Loop. As I keep saying, I really like the Dugout Loop. Potentially that project could start at the end of 2023. As long as the boring company is winning like more and more projects every year, so maybe they win another 2 projects the next year, and then after that again it's 2, and then after that it's 3, and it's 4, 6, 7, 10. As long as there's some kind of progression there and they're winning multiple projects, then that's great for the boring company, and they can expand as a company. However, there are going to be projects that they do bid on that kind of the interest kind of dwindles, and they're not able to get planning approvals as quickly as they like. And in the end of the day, it's a lot of work for them, and it's a lot of aggravation. And they decide that we're just going to put this to one side and focus on more convenient projects. That's the sad kind of state of affairs we have at the moment. Even if the boring company is funding the project in full, they still get held up by draconian regulations. But good question, Mogad. I thought that was an excellent question. One option, John, is the boring company just says, we've got 2 proof rock machines for Las Vegas. That's not going to be enough. Ideally, we need 6 machines. We're going to go to Robbins, and we're going to say, Robbins, we want to divide this project up for you. We're going to give you 3.5 miles here, and we're going to give you 4 miles here, and then we're going to do the rest. And then what we'll do is we'll pay you for that. Now, obviously, from a financial perspective, that's not good for the boring company, because they're then going to have to, pay more to get them to do that part of the project. However, if that means that they can finish that project earlier and then obviously run the system quicker and then make profits, then it might make sense to them. I think that might be the better option, is to kind of subcontract part of the job out to another contractor. I can't really think of anyone other than Robbins & Co. that could do that and do that well. But going out there and finding another machine that's going to fit their kind of the perfect size and the perfect kind of equipment to tunnel in Las Vegas is going to be fairly difficult, because Las Vegas has very kind of unique geology or strata, like most places. So it's probably not really worth it going out there and acquiring an existing machine and then renovating it. You better starting off from scratch. This is why they need a TBM gigafactory. That's another video I want to make, is why it's important, how they're going to do it, and how big is it going to be, and potentially how could it be laid out. It's going to be a very long building, potentially 1,200 foot long, maybe slightly less, slightly more than that. It's going to be about 100 foot, maybe 150 foot wide. Then you can have little offshoots coming off that big long building. And you could potentially build maybe 2, maybe 3 TBMs every month if you really wanted to. And when you want to expand that, you build another building that's exactly the same dimensions alongside that one. Then you can have little I won't call them tent structures, but like smaller portal frame buildings coming off that main structure. And then you could divide it up into the various fabrication stages of that particular machine. So at the far end, you'd have like the actual unit that manufactures the cutter head, and then at the other end, you'd have the beginning of the machine and the gantry and that sort of thing. They, at this moment in time, they are kind of perfecting the proof rock machine that they already have. And then they're obviously making adaptations to the other machine that they're now building, which is nowhere near even 50% complete. And it's difficult to kind of mass manufacture something when you're constantly making changes to it. What they need to do is come to a decision about how it's going to be, and then they can probably start doing that. And then once they've got to that position, they can then plan forward with, well, they actually don't even need to come to that decision. What they could actually do is they could say today we're going to build a TBM gigafactory, and it's going to be this big, this long, and this tall. And then when they actually perfected the designs for proof rock, they can then go there and make the necessary changes. Because a factory is basically just a very, very big shed. That's essentially what it is. And you can fit that out however you want. You just make sure that you've got enough room in there, and then you make the necessary changes. There's nothing that special about it. So that's what they need to do. They need to think about what projects are going to require what TBMs, and they need to have those machines ready 6 months in advance, so they can then test them at the Adelanto test facility. And once it's perfected that 100 meters per day, or 80 meters per day, or whatever they're initially going for, then they can roll it out on a job in the confidence that they know that that machine is going to be ready and ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 more questions and then I'm going to call it a day. I just want to thank you everyone for joining me on this live stream. There's going to be big changes for this channel. We're going to professionalize it a lot more, and we're going to cover more interesting topics like I was doing like 3 years ago. I think that I've kind of gone off the main kind of topics that I wanted to go off in the last year or so, and that's not helped with my viewership of this channel. It has grown, but it's not grown as much as I want it to. We're going to professionalize this channel. We're going to have a proper studio, and we're going to obviously integrate our patrons as well. So we're going to get our patrons to contribute more. And if you are a Patreon, thank you very, very much for supporting this channel. I really, honestly, every time I receive that check from Patreon, that really helps me deliver better content and hopefully upgrade my studio so that it is, potentially one of the best on YouTube with all the necessary equipment that I need to keep producing many, many videos every month. Good question. Very good question. Here we go. So Mogad, do you think other TBM companies are waking up to a new reality, or will they be stuck in their old ways? So you have Robbins & Co., you have Heron Connect, there's a few others, Hitachi and Mitsubishi, and there's another company as well that's got some acronym, and some Chinese companies. They make good money because in their markets or in their particular spheres of influence, they own those markets, and people are always going to come to them for their subways and for various other projects, and they have a good business plan, and they just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and the clients don't mind if the machines are only doing 26, 27 meters per day, or 20 meters per day, or even 15 meters per day. They don't really care, because at the end of the day, they're often paid via government contracts, and if that contract goes over budget, who cares? So they're in a good position, and often they're the only people that they can go to. If you look at projects in Europe, Heron Connect are pretty much running the entire show. There's very few other operators there. In the US, again, you have other people coming in, but largely it's kind of dominated by maybe one or two specific individuals or companies. And I don't think they will change. I think that the Boring Company will. They'll probably the size of the tunneling market will go up, and they still will be making, if not the same, more money. But the overall tunneling market will grow rapidly, and then the Boring Company will take a very, very large portion of that. And certain parts of it, like water diversion and things like that, will hopefully go to the Boring Company. But the Boring Company has to scale up. If it doesn't have enough TBMs, it's not going to be able to compete with all these other companies. And I think that they still have a good 10 years, maybe more, to kind of dominate this tunneling market. And they will still dominate it. And maybe at some point the Boring Company might acquire some of these companies, who knows. So let's have a look. Something to be said for getting it right first time. Absolutely. Tesla have a very, very, I won't say poor reputation, but I don't know what the best word to use for that is. They have a poor reputation for basically trying to get it done and not getting it right first time, but then getting it right third and fourth time, which sometimes is great for them, but it does lead to a bit of FUD. You are fantastic. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Ooh, Charlie Doyle. Will digging 1 mile per week be achieved within a year? No, it will not be achieved within a year. I know Elon said that. I don't think they will dig a mile in a week. I think they might do 230 meters in a day, which can then be equated to a mile. But I think to have a machine that can perform 1 mile in 1 week is a whole different ball game, because there's a lot of stresses and strains on that machine. There's lots of different pieces of maintenance that need to be conducted during that week. You have to have a very good stretch of ground. You get to a point where maybe the strata is changing and it's getting softer, and your machine is getting kind of locked up. That could be a big problem. So I think that maybe this time, maybe in 2 years' time, possibly, probably more like 3. But I think they will get very close to maybe 600-700 meters per week. Maybe even 800 meters per week, and then I think that it will be a slow, gradual increase from 800 to, is it 1,630, isn't it? 1,630 meters in a mile, I think, something along that lines. But so to get there, it's going to take them a bit of time. But I think they'll still be breaking records, and they'll still be faster than all the other TBMs. But to do 1 mile per week is an incredibly difficult undertaking, and I think that we are quite a way off from that. I think within the next 3 years, maybe they'll get very close and then never ever break the 1 mile. I think that's a possibility. But anything more than 70 meters per day is good, and people shouldn't forget that. And if you kind of have multiple TBMs, if you have like 5 or 6 or 7 TBMs and they're all doing 70, 80 meters per day, that is a lot of progress. That is a ton of progress. So I think they'll get close, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be very, very tight. Okay. David Patton. What is your history? Are you an employee of the Boring Company? So no, I don't work for the Boring Company. Occasionally I do say we a lot, which upsets a lot of people, and I don't mean to do that. I am very, very sorry if I've just done that. I think I just did. I'm just referring to we as in the community that supports the Boring Company. So my background is in the construction industry. I completed a degree in construction project management at the University of Salford. I then worked in the water industry for about 4 years. Was very successful there. I worked essentially as like kind of an assistant or trainee civil engineer, although I did a few other things whilst I was there. After that, I went more into site management. So I was working essentially as a site manager, and then I was working as an assistant construction manager. And then after that, I was working for basically a medium to large size contractor in the northwest of England. Again, I was working there around four and a bit years. Then I worked for a property developer, and I actually managed to work my way up to project manager. So I was actually running my own job. And then I worked in surveying. So I worked as a commercial surveyor for what was the largest commercial surveying practice in all of Europe. So it was a big job. So essentially I was working as like a lead surveyor. I started off as an assistant, and then I worked my way up to lead surveyor. And then most recently I've been working kind of in health and safety. I've practically been retired for the last maybe almost 2 years. And I've been focusing more on investing. I'm probably more of an investor now than an actual project manager. But I like to call myself a project manager because that's what I was trained to do. But I have done so many other things in the course of my career. It's quite bonkers, really. But all those things add up to great experience, which I can then apply to this channel. You're welcome, best channel on YouTube. Thank you, Benjamin. That is incredible. Charlie Doyle, good answer. How much does a Boring Company TBM cost? I'm guessing in the range of around $25 to $40 million. How did you get into the Boring channel on YouTube? This is going to be our last question because it is a great question. What it was I was watching all these videos on the Boring Company, and I looked on the internet and there was no one else doing it. And I just thought to myself, we have Ben Sullins doing Teslanomics. We have all these other channels talking about Tesla. There's so many, back then, this was almost 4 years ago, talking about Tesla. There must have been at least 20 channels that I was following, like religiously, that just talk about Tesla, like 90% of the time. And then there were so many SpaceX channels. I thought, why is no one done a specific channel on the Boring Company? And I think about it for about 2 weeks. And I said to myself, I have no experience on YouTube. I have no experience in front of a camera. You know, my kind of comfort zone is out on a building site, surveying, walking around in the mud in some kind of deep excavation, installing sheet piles, you know, that kind of thing. And I thought to myself, this is not really kind of my space. I thought, but you know what? I have the time to do it now. I'm practically retired. I jumped straight in. Best decision I ever made. I have met so many incredible people doing this. So many people reached out to me. I really enjoyed doing this. I have all these ideas, and I tell you about these ideas, and then you guys offer me better ideas and also like my ideas. So it's incredible. So that's kind of how I got into it. What do you have smart tunnel system that communicates with cars to achieve loop in the cars system? It's a good question, but I don't think they'll have where vehicles talk to each other necessarily at the beginning. I think they'll just use full self-driving. Do you think Tesla will make a car that can go 300 per hour? No, I don't think they will make a car that does 300 miles per hour. I think that someone else like Transpod or Virgin Hyperloop or Hyperloop, what's the other one called? Transpod, Hyperloop TT will make something that looks similar to a train, or maybe even use some kind of maglev system. And you, thank you. So the Boring Company, you're doing a great job, and fill an empty hole. And on that bombshell, I just want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate all your time for joining me today. This is the beginning of a new chapter in this YouTube channel. Things are going to get even better than they already are, if you can believe that. I'm going to make the things a lot more professional. I'm going to cover a lot more interesting topics. And of course, I want all you people here today to come along with me, make suggestions to me, email me, join me on Discord, message me on Twitter, any way you can reach out to me, email me. Do so. Tell me what I need to be doing, and I'm going to make this the best YouTube channel on the internet for all things The Boring Company and hopefully mass transit and other things. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really do appreciate your time. And remember, guys, don't be boring. I will see you on the next. And thank you to all my Patreons as well. I really appreciate all your support. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Take care. And I'll see you on the next one. Don't be boring. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. I'm all out of gum.